podcast. I am your host, the Vern, not joined by my co-host Ashley Yurok because she has kids and she does a lot of work on her farm. There should be a whole episode about Ashley on her farm. It would be absolutely great. They'll love it. But I'm here. I'm the Vern, and with me is a very special guest. I have with us in the studio. We have Mr. Brian Abrams, who wrote the book "You Talking to Me," which I'm holding here, mirror-wise, so it sounds like "Oi Nalata." Oh, it's me, but yes, it's the book "You Talking to Me." Brian, welcome to the show, buddy.
Hello, thanks for having me. How you doing?
This is so cool. No, I'm doing great. So this whole book is all about famous movie lines and the history of them, how they were conceived either through the script writing process. Sometimes it was done on set with the actors. Just real briefly, what got you into movies? I mean, what really got you into movies, Brian?
I mean, we're gonna have to roll back the clock, you know.
Yes.
I grew up in like a movie house, not like a movie house, but a house
Oh.
of movies. You know, I grew up with like theater people, and we were not outdoorsy. You know, Jewish family in a Texas suburb. So I was exposed to, you know, I'm not saying that I like understood movies as an art form at age 7, but at some point along the way, there was a level of appreciation where you know, the addiction hit for all of us. And so I think about, you know, I was born in 78, so that makes me 14 years old in 1992. And to be how do I put this? To be a 14-year-old straight white boy in 1992 and see Peter Travers' top 10 list to expose you to sort of the renaissance that was happening then. I mean, that will get you hooked. That's like Reservoir Dogs, One False Move.
Oh, sure.
The Player, Bad Lieutenant, which my dad did take me to see that. A double feature of Bad
Really?
Lieutenant and El Mariachi in 92, which was very cool of him.
Those are two very different movies to see back to back.
I know. It was I should tell him I'm grateful for that. I mean, it probably fucked my head up for life, but...
You know what's weird about Bad Lieutenant? So I wanted to see Bad Lieutenant for a while, and my folks, they always like preview movies before I can watch it. So they rented Bad Lieutenant. They says, no, you cannot watch that. I say, fine. And then I think about a few years later, the movie Kids comes out. Larry Clark's Kids. I asked my mom, I really want to see the movie. And she's like, sure. Did not preview it for me at all. She was like, the movie Kids, like, you gotta be 18 to rent it. I don't understand why, but here you go, watch Kids. So I couldn't watch Bad Lieutenant, but I could watch Kids.
Did she think that Kids was just, she didn't think about it? She's like, oh, that must be like a teenage sex comedy, that's fine.
Yeah.
Or she thought it was like Breakfast Club, but the 90s or something like that.
She thought
Wow.
she thought it'd be 18 because they have some nudity in there, and I think at the time it was like 16, 17. She's like, "Oh, it's fine. You don't have to worry about that." So
I mean, Kids is that's probably more of a damaging to like in a good or a bad way to a teenager's brain than Bad Lieutenant almost. I feel like the things in Bad Lieutenant are like tougher to wrap your head around when you're 16 or 14. Maybe. I mean, you're watching these like outlaw children run up and down the Lower East Side.
I know.
And that was great. I haven't seen that one.
I just found that great. So, like, do you remember your first theatrical experience? Like going to theater for the first time?
That's tough. I don't know about that. I mean, I feel like I remember my dad taking me to see Empire when I'm like 3, but I definitely remember, you know, by age 5, like going to the theater to see Jedi like 5 times, like easily, right?
Well, sure.
And I remember at age 6, my mom covering my eyes. I didn't know what I was at the Mola Ram heart scene in Temple of Doom. So,
oh, sure.
right. And I remember being scared of the Goonies, I remember Sloth and Ma Fratelli freaked me out. And yeah. So I don't know how far back my brain goes with like first memories. I apparently wanted to be Danny Zuko for like Halloween when I was like 1 or 2 or something.
Oh, badass. Very cool. Well, definitely want to get into your book here. I do like to let everyone know that you can find Cinema Recall Podcast on all your favorite podcast apps at like Spotify and Apple, Good Pods, Podchaser. Please leave your ratings and reviews on those apps. Really help us out. You can find this episode early on Patreon, patreon.com/CinemaRecallPod, and I'll be reading shout-outs to all of our wonderful Patreon supporters at the end of the show there. So the book you wrote here, Brian, what made you want to write a book all about movie quotes and the history and legacy of them?
So, a friend of mine has this comedy journal called The Lowbrow Reader. Okay. It comes out once every couple years. It's a zine. It's a lot of fun. And about, I think for the 2019 edition, I wrote, he wanted me to write about one line from The Naked Gun, which was, hey, it's Enrico Palazzo during the... And
I apologize about barking dogs in the background there. I apologize.
I didn't hear a thing.
Okay, sorry.
I mean, I'm tempted to turn on my AC, but I'm leaving it off now because I don't want that background to F this up. But so I wrote this piece about one line from The Naked Gun, and I spoke to, I just took it to ridiculous lengths. I spoke to the actor, if you remember Mark Holton, who gave the line in The Naked Gun. He also played Chubby in Teen Wolf and Francis in Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Oh, really? Oh, nice.
So he has this cameo. So I spoke with him about just one line. I spoke with the writer, I spoke with the director, I spoke with the costume designer, and just turned it into this large thing. And a book editor that I was friendly with saw it, and we started talking about what would a large version of this look like in like a mainstream way. And we kind of discovered that there isn't really like not anytime recently, there isn't like a movie lines book. There isn't like a book that like takes that angle in to explore Hollywood history or do an analysis on the way these lines have kind of reverberated and made these weird impacts in culture. And they're just these like catchphrases we all have burned into our brains, whether we've seen the movies or not. So it just felt like it felt like a book that could operate on like a very basic level for people who don't necessarily watch movies but just kind of want to know quotes. And then it also works on like a hardcore movie nerd level too, I think.
And I love the fact that you have lines from, a lot of like classic movies, like Some Like the Hots, well, Nobody's Perfect line. And then you have lines from cult favorites like I've come here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, but I'm all out of bubblegum from They Live.
Yeah. Both of those have range. They've ricocheted through everyone's lives in strange ways. But it's strange because for me, it was a struggle to try to delineate between like lines. There are lines that like we just know because we know certain movies just backwards and forwards, and we just memorize them because you just kind of absorb it naturally if you watch them on repeat viewings. We all like have versions of those, right? And then there are lines that like that you literally know have made large impacts on the culture and objectively are famous, right? And so I was constantly struggling with figuring out which was which, and I didn't want to make the book too big either. It's pretty big, but I didn't want to go crazy. You could be stuck writing that thing for 10 years,
I know, and like there are certain lines of this that I'm familiar with, and I've never seen the movies, and sometimes I get lines from famous movies confused with the comedic versions. Perfect example is badges. We don't have those station badges from the Treasure of Sierra Madre because I'm always going to associate that with UHF.
Oh, really?
But there was a scene where it was like badgers, way down stealing badgers in UHF. And I remember seeing that line in UHF before I've ever heard about Treasure of Sierra Madre.
That's funny. Yeah. I'm that way too. I'm sure there's. Well, I mentioned Blazing Saddles. There's a line that's, could I put on something more comfortable, or there's the Jean Harlow line. I should have it memorized. That I think of Lily von Shtupp from Blazing Saddles, but it's from like a 1932 Jean Harlow comedy.
Well, you have a section in your book too when you're talking about the movie Airplane.
Yeah. And
you mentioned that one famous line, surely you can't be serious.
Right. Don't call
and
me
Leslie
Shirley.
Nielsen goes, I am serious, don't call me Shirley, which was taken from a line in 0 Hour.
Right.
Kind of verbatim, but that was taken seriously. Someone actually does say the line, surely you can't be serious. And I did not realize, because I know that there were certain, I thought Airplane was taken from airports, and I guess some parts of 0 Hour too. So,
well, I think Airplane definitely happened because of Airport, right? And because of like Poseidon Adventure and all those 70s, like, what would they call them? They were, these like tragedy
disaster movies.
Thank you, disaster movies. And then, but yeah, the Zucker brothers were watching. Yeah, they were watching Red Hour, and they took verbatim like a large amount of that dialogue and just put it through that different lens. They gave it the silly lens, and it works perfectly.
Oh. Who in your mind, in your opinion, Brian, do you think is a really good screenwriter? Who do you think rates the best dialogue for a film? Like your favorite of go through movie quotes here.
I feel like Billy Wilder's the GOAT, don't you? I mean, I feel like there's just so much. There's just so much that he's done. Just one after the next. There's so many clever lines. I got to get better at ranking things. But I mentioned Mel Brooks before as well. I should probably come up with someone modern. It's like, say someone from the last 40 years. That would be good for your podcast.
Okay. God, yeah. I feel like Tarantino's got some good lines in there, here and there.
Oh my God.
Same thing. Even Kevin Smith too can have some good lines. Wes Anderson has some good ones here too.
Yeah.
So looking through this book, I like the fact that you have references to a lot of like great horror films, and also great comedies here too. Classic films. The last line here is "Shut Up and Deal" from The Apartment. You mentioned Billy Wilder. That last line, "Shut Up and Deal," was great. And what's also really great too is that a lot of times dialogue or these famous lines just come out of nowhere. Sometimes they can just come out from the actors. I was reading the thing about Chinatown because I originally just saw that in theaters not too long ago. They were playing that at a local theater nearby, and I never got to see that on the big screen. And the fact that Robert Towne and Polanski were arguing about the ending of that movie for several months and how to put the whole structure. I guess structures that changed, and I had no idea about that, which is very cool. Was there something that really, when researching for the book, was there anything that kind of surprised you when you were doing research for this? Like, I never knew about this movie, or...
Oh, all of it. Yeah. Are you kidding? I didn't know anything before going into this. I mean, I think I had like a decent knowledge of like film history and film criticism, but no, it was all eye-opening to me. I wanted to ask you, just going back to what we were discussing, is there a movie that is like severely quotable for you, and like which one do you find, if you don't like say it out loud in your head, it's in your head constantly ringing? Do you have like something that's constantly playing?
So I know that friends of mine have quoted lines from Josie and the Pussycats.
Okay. And that came out, what year did that one come out?
2001.
Okay. I haven't seen it, but...
The whole, who's a rock star, and and DeJour means family, and we say lines like that. And we also said lines from Super Troopers.
Yeah.
The snozberries taste like snozberries.
So okay, Josie and the Pussycats. You know what?
So
I should check it out. I've never seen Super Troopers either.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna give a shout here. Hold on 1 second. I gotta reach up here to my. All right. So a buddy of mine, he wrote a book all about the making of Josie and the Pussycats movie called "The Best Movie Ever," which talks about the whole history of Josie and the Pussycats. It's great. Shout out to Russ Burlingame who wrote the book there. But yeah, it's a satire about the music industry, and it's really great. It's
so
about
it's like
this
Gem,
older rock.
right?
Yeah, it's like older rock band, and they become signed to a record label, but the record label would put subliminal messages so that they can sell items to kids, and then they find out about it, and it's great. It was making fun of pop music at a time when people didn't really want to be made fun of, I guess. So it just works in so many different ways. But yeah, but I know that was the movie that got quoted. And then we used to have like this game that me and my friends would play where every time they would say a movie line or a line from a movie and we'd raise our hands, if we get the quote right, we can always ask someone else to drink. And that was a game that we played when I was younger. Growing up, we went to bars. Like, everyone raised their hands. You did the quote right. Like, all right, drink. And
that's healthy. I have a friend who we have had an ongoing text thread for about 15 years now, and we don't talk about anything else. But we only text each other once every 6 months, and it's only quotes from Dirty Work with Norm Macdonald.
Oh gosh,
and Artie Lang. And that's it. That's my relationship with this man. I haven't seen him since 2008, and I assume his wife and kids are fine. I don't know. I guess they're still in New York. I don't know, but Dirty Work. That's it.
See, the weird thing is that I'm pretty sure if I heard a line from that movie, I would be able to tell where it's from. But I have a hard time just saying quotes from movies.
Me too.
Like, if you tell me the name of a movie, I'm not going to be like, I'm not quite sure. I can possibly come up with something, but it's not going to be the exact line and what it is. And what I love the best about this book is that I got this nice little fun indents here, and I can just go back to like, oh yeah, that's right, that was from that movie, and I had no idea it was from that.
It's a good pick up and put down sort of read. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't think I don't think I can consider myself a reference bro of the highest order. I don't think I'm capable of like dialing up a movie line at any given notice, which maybe makes me like not the ideal author for a book like this. But then again, I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe it makes me just 10% less annoying.
Well, it's fun too because you got all these like fun little side brackets on here that I can read about. You do a whole thing about people that were influenced by Jerry Lewis with Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Ace Ventura and Borat.
Have you gotten into Jerry yet?
I've only not as much as I like to. I'm watching the whole series about movies from the 1960s from Brad Jones, the Cinema Snob, and they do talk about The Bellboy and a few other Jerry Lewis movies that I will need to check out, and I'm hoping that the Criterion Channel will play something on them soon. So.
Yeah, Bellboy is solid. Ladies' Man is solid, and the Errand Boy is the other one, I believe. Those three are pretty great. I mean, you just have to know that he's just not right in the head, and that it makes for excellent viewing. Oh, and I'm a fan of Cinderfella too. Actually, you can just watch like 12 of them. You'll be fine. Come join me. The water's fine. Come on in. We'll become fanatics together.
Was that like which one would you? Something that just know anything about Jerry Lewis movies. Which one would you start with?
If I had to pick one Jerry Lewis movie to get someone turned on, I would go with The Ladies' Man.
Okay.
I would go with The Ladies' Man. But I think that But I think those other two, I think the Bellboy and the Errand Boy are also like solid. Those are probably, in my opinion, like the three best.
Right.
Not the Nutty Professor. That's like
Really?
Yeah, that's like I don't know. That feels like the more mainstream. They were all mainstream. Like he was not. I would not call Jerry Lewis like a hip character at this time. He was like a middle of the road guy appealing to the masses. Like Billy Wilder was kind of off in the corner doing like dark hip stuff. He was popular, but it was just a different attitude. Just for like a weird contrast, I'm trying to find two figures. But Jerry, I feel like Nutty Professor is like his more normie project. The jokes aren't quite as wacky or extreme or crazy. So not in my top 5.
All right. So, we mentioned about Mel Brooks.
Yep.
Mel Brooks and, Jerry Lewis movies, and Billy Wilder. Who do you think is your favorite comedic director or writer?
Oh God.
Who has the best track record?
Yeah, I mean, I guess
comedy?
you gotta go with Mel, right? It's like Billy Wilder, Mel. They're at the top for sure. I thought you were gonna ask like a comedic actor or something. I've been stuck in the past for a long time. Like I've been on a tear with Mickey Rooney movies lately.
Oh, okay. I'm not super familiar with Mickey Rooney movies.
I know. I really gotta. This is good practice, Vern, because it would be good for my next interview if I saw movies that were made in the last 10, 20 years. No, Rooney is wild.
I mean, I have seen a few older movies, and I had no idea that the whole Abbott and Costello, Who's on First, was in a movie. I just thought that was just a skit that they did for radio and whatnot.
It was. They did it. They did it on stage. They did it on the radio, and then it was a huge hit. And then they did like a couple of movie versions of it, for sure.
And, even this, and I'm hoping I'm getting this right here. The line that I think it's in. No, what's her? I'm just gonna bother. The line that Lauren Bacall has in "To Have and Have Not." The whole just put your lips together and blow. I really thought that was in The Big Sleep.
Yeah, I get that. I totally understand where that confusion could kick in.
I really thought that was a different movie.
Yeah. Yeah, they were made practically. I mean, they were released, practically back to back. I mean, and she's kind of more or less the same person in both those movies. So yeah, totally.
Yeah. So has there?
I'm gonna get a refill. I'll be right back. Is that okay?
Okay. Well, that's the perfect time. We're gonna take the audio listeners will get a quick little commercial ad spot from another famous podcaster, and then we'll be right back. And then
We can talk about whatever you want. We don't have to talk about the book if you didn't want
no,
to.
I was noticing your giant licorice pizza poster in the background.
Yeah,
that is very cool.
Thanks,
are you a big Paul Thomas Anderson fan?
Oh, for sure. And
Do you have a favorite movie?
Frame with my favorite. I mean, it might be this one. I mean, of all the PTA movies, that's hard to say. It might be this one. This is pretty much up there.
It was really good.
Yeah, so charming. It always puts me in a good mood. So I've seen it too many times.
I know I saw it twice in theaters, but I have not gotten to buy it yet. I know it's available on streaming. So I know for Boogie Nights, he recorded a commentary for that. And then he recorded a second commentary with all of his cast members and friends and whatnot. That was a lot of fun. And then he stopped recording commentaries. And I really wish he would make one for Magnolia and I went to hear one for Punch Drunk Love, and The Master. I kind of missed that.
I didn't realize that about him. That's interesting that he swore off commentaries. He doesn't want to deal with it.
I know he swore off commentaries, but he just doesn't make them, and I can understand because people don't make much physical media anymore unless you get like a Criterion release or an Arrow Blu-ray or some other company that really focuses on movies. And I want to ask you about this too, Brian. What do you feel what do you think is the going to be the outcome of physical media? I mean,
it's not looking good, is it? I'm still a physical media person for the exact reason you are. I mean, I don't trust the streaming. I mean, you can't trust the streaming services. They're not gonna be there. You may have, I on impulse, I'll make purchases on Prime and I'll buy, whatever, Django Unchained or Out of the Past with Robert Mitchum. I'll just, $10, I'll say the hell with it and I'll just buy it and it'll stay on in my app, but there's literally no way of knowing when that will disappear. There could be some policy change. You'll never get that copy. It's gone. So yeah, it's not good.
I mean,
but
because I know that I sold off a bunch of DVDs and Blu-rays because I'm thinking, I can watch them on Netflix or I can watch them on Hulu. Like I just sold off my copy of Black Swan because I saw it on Hulu a bunch of times. Like, it's going to stay on Hulu forever. And then I went to go find it because I went to watch it and it wasn't there. Try to find it on Prime, Netflix, everywhere. Just no longer there anymore because Black Swan was released by Fox, and since Disney owns Fox, they can decide what is on their platform and what's not. Yeah. So that's why.
And I don't want to. Besides that, I don't want to depend on like whether the Wi-Fi is good in my building. And like you said, I do like the DVD commentaries too, but I want like the cleanest picture, and I want to be able to still watch the movie whenever I want to watch it. Like I don't need to, and we use I'm sure you use like Just Watch and Letterboxd to like track when things are streaming, and
sure.
We all have like bookmarked like a ton of movies we're waiting to see, and we just like figure like there's no urgency on a certain amount of titles. Like I don't need to jump in and buy the DVD of I don't know what, take your pick, some Spencer Tracy movie that I'll just get around to it eventually, right? When it's streaming, then I'll watch it. But yeah, sometimes after a couple of drinks, you do just like to go shopping because it's
exactly.
But it's also a harmless habit.
I do want to ask one more thing about the book here because I know the book just kind of goes only up to like the year like 2018.
Right.
I think the recent one you have on here is for Wakanda Forever, Black Panther. Will you ever do a follow-up book that will go to movies now or so? Which we go further with this. Like
we should wait until I'm like 90 years old, and so right, so we can have like 50 more movies added on. I think. Wakanda Forever is like the last entry. I do put a list somewhere earlier in there with like 10 lines that I think will kind of everyone will be quoting in 10 years. I just have like a sense that if they're not already being quoted, that they will like eventually kind of grow into having their own cultural stories of things to talk about. But
that's a good question too. Is there a line from this past year, even though everything's with the strikes and everything going on?
Yeah.
But was there a movie in the last like year or so, like famous lines that you heard that you were like, oh yeah, that's going to become a favorite line, or that's going to be memorable?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of saying, you're right, you kind of busted me. I'm talking two sides out of my mouth. On the one hand, I'm telling you that there's a list in there where I just kind of made a call that I think that a certain amount of lines a certain set of lines already have sort of gained traction and are already kind of famous, and I think they'll only grow from here. But no, I'm not a soothsayer. There's no way of knowing. Could you cite a line in the past 5 years that has, found itself at the center of culture? Like, I don't know. I mean, was there something in Oppenheimer or Barbie that everyone's now quoting? Like, I just don't think it's. I don't think the world operates like that anymore. I think we quote like memes now or TikToks or something.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard to say. The whole thing, are you Ken enough? Is that going to be a line?
Yeah,
Maybe.
maybe.
Like one of my favorite lines from Everything Everywhere All at Once is where Ke Huy Quan tells Michelle Yeoh's character, "I would be very happy just doing taxes and laundry with you." And I thought that is a very beautiful line, but other people may have a better line that they think is more important. And it's different now when you talk about memes and everything too. People can remember more of a quick little image of something more than the show itself or the product itself.
Yeah, our brains are broken for sure. You know.
Yeah.
But we also like not to be nostalgic about it. Or I don't mean this in like a way of saying like, oh, it was so much better back then. It's fine. I'm not saying that. But you know, there was a once upon a time where there weren't memes, and it was just you and your friends going to the video store because that was the thing, right? I mean, maybe you had Sega, maybe you had PlayStation, but like you could go watch a movie, and that was like your main intake for that was like you know the media you primarily consumed, or TV, I guess. So you didn't have apps, and you didn't have like ironic tweets that like live in your brain forever and ever, and you're going around like quoting drill. We just kind of had movies, I think. Anyway, so there's a lot more competition out there for things to be filled up in your head.
But it's I'm going back to the book here because I mean I think what's great about this book is that you can read it from the start, because it does start with the very first line in movies in the jazz scene there. You know, you ain't seen nothing yet, and you can just read it just from front to back. But also, I just like just going through it and skimming through it and just
totally. Me too.
come upon a quote on here. You're like, oh yeah, I remember that, and kind of read about the history of it. So I find it to be a fun little reference book. And that was the most difficult for me, Brian, when trying to do this podcast, is I read like a small chapter about one movie. I'm like, okay, gotta remember this. Oh no, my ADHD brain, I just see something else there. But okay, I want to talk about
You
this
don't have
now.
to remember anything. We could talk about anything. We don't even have to talk about the book. I mean, we could talk about.
I don't. No, I just like the book very much, and I just want to make sure I give you the plugs there. No. Yes. I will ask you this, Brian. Have you seen a good movie in the last month?
Yeah, of course.
Did you see?
Well, I went to. They were screening Gene Dealman here at a local theater, and I saw it twice. You know, the 3 hour 20-minute movie about housekeeping. You know what I'm talking about?
I know it's that French movie where she, that Jean, that long title 24, like the name of her
Dealman,
address.
23 Quai du Commerce, 1080 Brussels. Yeah.
Okay, I've not seen the movie. It's been listed on the Sight and Sound of like one of the best movies ever made, type of thing, and I just have not pulled the trigger to watch that movie yet.
Oh,
I know
you see it on Criterion, and you're like, I don't know yet, that sort of thing, right?
I see it. Well, I just see the runtime. I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. And then I see the people describing it. I'm like, no, it's probably really good. But I got to sit down. Like, I know for sure next weekend I'm gonna have a full day off.
Yeah, it's amazing. But I will say this: I don't recommend watching it on TV. Like, if and when it ever screens like on in the theater, like that's the way to see it. Like you need to be sort of consumed by it. You don't need your phone in your hand. You don't need to like, you know, run into the kitchen. And it's not really a movie for that. You kind of need to be sucked in. And I know that we all strive to be sucked into every movie we watch, I'm sure, but like there are a lot of distractions at home. The first time I watched it was when the Sight and Sound poll came out and called it the #1 movie of all time, which we can discuss. I waited a month, and then I put it on Criterion, and I watched it in pieces, which is the worst way to do it. Worst way to do it. And so then I finally watched it on the big screen twice in the last couple of weeks here, and it's just changed my life. Yeah.
I will. There's a local theater. They're called the Parkway Theater, and maybe they'll get that. They do play a lot of like older movies. I definitely would give them a shout out because we have done events over there. They have a bunch of other great movies coming out. Them and the Trilon would also be great places to show it. I know a movie like that. Yeah, Minneapolis. They would probably be playing that one movie mentioned over at the Walker Arts Center. It's really difficult for them to get certain movies just because they're afraid that not many people will come. I don't know for sure, but if it does come there, I will definitely seek that one out for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Do yourself a favor. Big screen for sure.
I did get a chance to watch at the Parkway Theater. They had a screening of Alien.
Cool.
Which was very cool.
I would love to see that on the big screen.
And then I believe over at the Parkway Theater, they are going to be doing some great 35mm presentations of movies, which is pretty awesome. So they are going to be getting in a 35mm print of Night of the Living Dead.
Great. Looks great.
They're going to be getting a 35mm print of Rosemary's Baby.
Nice.
They're going to be getting a print of, what's that right here? Poltergeist. Which would be great to see. And I know that over at the Trilon, I got to see a 35mm print of Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me, Wild at Heart for their David Lynch retrospect. Got to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in 35mm.
Terrific. Yeah.
Which is absolutely great. Do you have theaters that show stuff in 70mm or 35mm over?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
That's good because that seems to be that type of like format that seems to like go away a little bit. People are streaming more towards digital, and I think digital works fine too. I do like watching the 4K presentations of movies. Like they just put out like A24 just put out a new remastered version of Talking Heads Stop Making Sense and IMAX, which I would love to see. But yeah, they had a 35mm print of that movie. I want to see that as well. And I don't know if you do this, Brian, but we talked about collecting movies. I have a tendency to collect it on Blu-ray and on VHS and on Laserdisc.
Still?
Oh yeah.
Wait, you'll still collect the VHS and the Laserdisc?
I will.
That's wild. That's
wild. I know.
Okay, can you help me understand that a little bit? What's going on there? Do you have to watch movies on VHS, or is it just more like a collector's item, sort of?
Oh no, I just have downstairs in my basement a tube TV and a VHS machine.
Wow.
That I will watch movies on there.
And Laserdisc.
And Laserdisc, yep, I got that downstairs. And sometimes I want to watch the movie the way that people watched it when it was first released.
Yeah, I get that.
So I got the theatrical cut of Blade Runner on VHS. And so I want to watch it with the narration, the pan and scan way. Yeah. And I do that sometimes because there's a video game sequel that has the narration with it. And sometimes I like to watch it with the narration and then watch the video game sequel. And then some days I want to watch
the sequel. Like in other words, before 2049 came out, like years and years ago, they did.
Yes, it came out like in 1997.
Blade Runner video game 1997.
It's from Westwood Entertainment. And it has characters from the movie Blade Runner. You're following a different character set in the same world of Blade Runner. And
I do not remember this at all.
It's a point-and-click adventure, and it was so moody and atmospheric, and being the fact that the video game is like done in like a 4:3 aspect ratio, and the Blade Runner VHS is a pan scan 4:3. So watching that elements back to back with the narration. And then I will watch the Blade Runner Final Cut with no narration, then watch Blade Runner 2049. And
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah. And I do have like big amount of Laserdisc. Like I have all the Aliens on Laserdisc, but I got like the special edition of Aliens. And I got
Does it look better? Does it look better than Blu-ray, the Laserdisc?
Well, no, it does
doesn't?
not. But
Okay.
on the TV that I have, it works just fine. You know what? It reminds me of this. Laserdisc is taken from an analog source, like a video film source, and put on to the Laserdisc machine,
Right.
and it looks like you're watching a film.
Yeah. Okay, so it has a
On
more
there.
authentic look. And it doesn't
feels-
have the cleaner look. Got it.
Yeah, it looks like more like you're watching a film. Like I had it hooked up to like my flat screen TV before, and I could still see like the pops and little like track marks from like it was shown on film, and I kind of like that a little bit because it makes me feel like I'm watching a movie in theaters. I used to prefer watching Pulp Fiction on Laserdisc more than my Blu-ray 4K copy, just
Yeah.
because it felt like I was watching the movie back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Because in '94 when that movie came out, I watched that movie like all the time and remember lines from it, and I remember like where the secret burns were when the projectionist had to change wheels, and that shows up on the Laserdisc copy, and it's just so cool to just see that in there. And I still watch, I'll watch my 4K copy of it, but every once in a while, I'm like, I gotta watch it the old school way. So
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I like the scratches and if it's a little faded. There's a part of that feels real. But I don't know. I mean, if I have to pick, I guess I have to go with digital. I want to go with like when they're doing retrospectives of all these older films, and they want to like the most accessible way to ship around is not like the 75-year-old prints, but like the digital files, right? And that's just the most
Yeah.
compressed and clean way to share that stuff. So, I guess I live in the digital world now. That's the way it is, man.
Another wrong with that, right? I'm the same way too. Like there are sometimes I wish the projectionist would preview a movie ahead of time to make sure that it's actually a good looking print, because I saw a print of Possession, the movie
Yeah.
with Sam Neill and Isabella Adjani on 35 millimeter, and they did not check the soundtrack of it, and you kept hearing like this clicking noise going on and the movie's playing like this like this really annoying ticking sound for the first like 5 or 10 minutes, and it went away. And I'm like, yeah, I'm grateful to see this on film print, but if you can't get a good sound print of it, give me the digital version of it. And I know that they made a 4K or a 2K copy of that movie that you could have done.
So what are
yeah.
you watching tonight?
Oh gosh, I am watching. There's a bunch of good car movies going on the Criterion Channel, so I'm probably gonna watch possibly Duel or I think it's a Dirty Mary Crazy Larry.
It's great. It's great. Dirty
So,
Mary Crazy Larry's great. Totally check that one out.
Shouts to the Making Tarantino podcast, who are going to be doing an episode on that, I believe, later
are
on
they?
this week. So definitely look forward to hearing that after I watch the movie. They do a lot of great shows about older movies and whatnot. But yeah, that's what I'm going to be watching there. What about you?
I haven't looked yet. I haven't decided. It's like, I mean, we talked a little bit before we started the show, and like, it was a long, stressful day, and I needed my medicine, which is not great, but whatever.
No.
So I haven't picked something out yet, but I'll definitely melt into the couch and knock something out for sure. Today.
I'm tempted to rewatch Licorice Pizza. Another Paul Thomas Anderson movie I need to rewatch again is Inherent Vice.
Yeah. I rewatched that recently too.
That's a
It's
movie
good.
I did not quite understand that movie, but I will.
I know. It's all over the place.
I know, right? Well, before we do go, Brian, tell everyone out there where to find you, where to find your wonderful book.
Sure. You Talking to Me should be in bookstores everywhere. by the time you're listening to this. And I'm at brianlabrams.com, but also just Brian Abrams. You can find me, BrianAbrams. You can find me on Twitter and on Letterboxd. And that's it, I guess. I'm technically on Facebook still, but I'm only there just for a minute because friends and family from back home. But I really don't care for it.
That's fair.
But reach out, say hi. That's fine.
I'll make sure to post links in our show descriptions about where you can find the book and where you can follow Brian as well. Before we do go, Brian, I need your help with something. This will only take a short minute or so. I got to give a shout out to all of our wonderful Patreon supporters.
Yeah.
So after I say a name, you can just give them a shout out. Just say woohoo, or just say thank you to this person. Or
okay.
All right. So we're going to thank right now, by the way, patreon.com/CinemaRecallPod. So thank you to Mr. Jason Soto from Rabbit Hole Podcasts.
Thank you, Jason.
They just did an episode about their favorite cover songs on Whatever with Jason Soto. So check that out.
Excellent.
And then we got to thank Matt and Ashley from Mashley at the Movies.
Just terrific people, Matt and Ashley. I mean, you can't go wrong with that couple.
They just recently did a show about Bottoms and a few other movies, so check them out. And then I want to thank Jeanette Miller from AKA Jeanette.
Big ups, Jeanette.
Jeanette was a voice actor in our Night of the Living Dead audio drama, so big thank you for her for that. And she's been in other episodes too. Then we gotta thank Donnie Roberts who wrote the book of the Deep Sea Anthologies.
What's up, Donnie?
Hey. Linda Castro from Bed Knobs and Broomflits.
That's a great name, Linda.
We gotta thank Harvey Andrus, who is our former guitar player for mine and Ashley's band. But he's a Patreon supporter, and we love him dearly. So thank you, Harvey Andrus.
Harvey, I have not heard from you in years, but that's okay. I will not take it personally.
And lastly, we gotta thank Jen McQuaid from Shot and Applaud podcast.
What's up, Jen?
Woo! Yes. Thank you very much. If you want to be like these amazing people, please help us out. Go to our Patreon page. We release episodes. We'll do bonus shows. I know coming up here at the end of the month, we are going to be recording our Clue audio drama for Rabbit Hole Podcasts.
Excellent.
And we got our cast members. We're going to do a whole new adaptation of the 1985 movie, so that's going to be recording. We're going to be releasing us doing the script read live, and then I'm going to take that and add in sound effects and music and whatnot to it to make it into a whole audio production. So look for that soon over at Rabbit Hole Podcast. The other podcast I host with Ryan Luis Rodriguez, Tales from the Double R, which is a Twin Peaks podcast. We are in a little bit of a hiatus right now, but we should be getting back to recording more episodes of that in October. We can find past episodes of that also on rabbitholepodcast.com. I'm the Vern, by the way. Check out Cinema Recall on all of your favorite social media apps. We're at cinema_recall on Instagram and on Twitter. I'm not calling it X. Fuck that. I'm sorry. That's bullshit. It's Twitter. And we're on Facebook. We got a Facebook group. We're called Crack Cinema Recalls Awesome Cinematic Club with a K. So follow us on there. People post some crazy shit. It's a lot of fun. Big shout out to you, Brian. I hope you'll come back again.
Sure.
Just to talk about whatever. I don't care. You're a fun cat to talk to.
Yeah, it was really nice. Thanks for having me. I'm glad you didn't kick me off or anything.
Oh, why would I do that, Brian? I am not that type of asshole, right? No, you seem like a cool cat at all, so I appreciate that very much. All right, folks, and I'm going to stop the recording now.